This is the Songwriting Mind, a program exploring the personal depths of creativity, stories, and craft that define songwriting. I'm Eric, the producer of the podcast. It's been almost 2 months since the first episode was recorded. Today I'll be reflecting on the development of the project, sharing notes on where it came from, where it's been, and where it's headed. If you've listened to previous episodes, you might have noticed guests mentioning a songwriting group. They're referring to a songwriting challenge organized by Tim Bolster, guest in episode 3, where a group of songwriters sign up to submit one new song per week for 6 weeks. At the end of each week, if you don't submit a song, you're out of the group. The goal is to push each other to create regularly, seek inspiration, and make time for writing every week while holding each other accountable. Over the last year and a half, we've done 4 rounds of this challenge, and though it's a small group of writers, the amount of songs submitted is now in the hundreds. That's a lot of creativity and a lot of writing. Here's Tim expressing his advice to songwriters. Find a friend or friends to write with.
If you can find someone, a friend, a group, I think what's really helpful, especially if you're on one person who you can give each other feedback and create deadlines and hold each other accountable, I think that's the biggest thing, actually. Because what would happen is he would send me a really good song, and I'd be like, ooh. Like, I haven't written a good song in like 3 weeks, and he's like sent me 2 in a row, you know? And so there's some like healthy competition that comes up, and then it inspires me the next week to come back and try harder, you know? So I would say find people. That might be the biggest thing. Find someone who wants to do it too and get excited with them about songwriting and help each other out.
Essentially, this project was born out of such a group of friends. Along with myself, 4 of the artists in the first 5 episodes have been participants in the songwriting group from the beginning. Back in October, during a conversation after a gig, I began to ask T-Bird, guest in episode 4, about some of the songs she had been submitting to the group. We started swapping notes on our songwriting processes and talking about creative writing in general. It was during that conversation that it occurred to me. This process, these stories, these unique insights are worth sharing with others. That was when the idea for the podcast was born. The goal at first was simple: to demystify the songwriting process. I believe so much of songwriting is about the human experience and the non-musical life. Our experiences, relationships, emotions, and personal development. I wanted to capture glimpses into the creative minds of artists and show how songwriting really happens. I hoped that whether or not a listener writes songs themselves, they could see that the artist's life is something human, real, and ever unfolding. Something everyone can connect with. Chasing this loose goal, I began the first round of interviews with little concept of the final presentation, format, length, or anything else. Each interview ranged from an hour to over an hour and a half. As I began the editing process, the podcast really began to take shape. I realized that the podcast was not meant to be a one-on-one conversation, tracing a chronological series of events, challenges, and successes in music. More than just an interview, I wanted to present the process of creation in the artist's words. To gain insight into each artist's unique history, approach, and philosophy around this form of creative expression. There were a number of worthy segments that ended up being cut from the first episodes. Bits on performing, playing in bands, releasing music, and more, that I felt didn't fit the podcast. I realized I'd rather focus on everything that comes before the final product and presentation, whether that's a public performance or a record release. This brings me to something that has naturally become a core philosophy behind this project. The value of an artist's voice is intrinsic, regardless of commercial success or recognition. Their stories matter not because they're famous or popular, but because they reflect the human experience. Specifically the life of an artist and the calling to cultivate a creative practice and form of expression. I've been intentional about presenting each artist's ideas and experiences as valid, independent of the context of fame or financial success. From the beginning, I tried to conceive this as a live event, something that can engage and inspire audiences of musicians and music fans alike. Our first live event came just after the New Year's, held at So It Goes Coffee House in Coos Bay, Oregon. This 2-hour event was edited to become episodes 3 and 5 of the podcast. Going into the event, I didn't know what to expect, but thanks to the support of the local community and the presence of local artists Tim Bolster and Misha Silvius, we ended up with a full house, and it could not have gone any better. Each artist had an hour of free-flowing interview and conversations, with many insights and laughs shared, and musical performances mixed in. At the end of each hour of interviews and performances, we opened up to audience questions, and each artist received some fantastic questions from the crowd. Most of the answers can be heard in the podcasts. To make it even more engaging, I printed QR codes and left them at the tables, allowing the audience to access a document on their phones with lyrics for the songs. The audience was able to follow along with the lyrics during each performance. In the final Q&A session of the event, a member of the audience asked Misha how she felt knowing that the room was reading along with her lyrics. This is what she had to say.
You know, I've always liked as a kid, like a pastime of mine is sitting down with a song that I really like musically, and I like hear a line where I'm like, ooh, that means something more, and then actually like sitting down with the lyrics and following along. So I think it's comforting. It's a little nerve-wracking at the same time, and like talking about something that's very vulnerable and that you're kind of unsure of your own process. That's also like a mysterious process is a little nerve-wracking, but it's also cool to let you all into the world too, and try and articulate it, for which I can't do very well. Yeah, that is a good question. Tim, did you want to answer that one? I agree. Okay. Okay.
One question I didn't expect, but that stuck with me, came after the event. Someone came up to me and said he wanted to ask, why write songs? Why even do it in the first place? I thought that was a powerful question, and one that I find each artist answers in their own way. T-Bird, for instance, talks about music as something she has to do.
I feel like for me and a lot of the other musicians I know, it's like a compulsion where like you have to do it. There's not like a question like, why do I do this? It's like, it just needs to happen. I remember having a conversation with some friends, the first band I was ever in. Some of the other girls were like, I don't know, like if we have time for this. The sun was setting and someone had a bad day and they were like, I just want to go like watch the sunset because like for me that like helps me like feel better. And I was like, well, the music is my sunset. That's like how I feel better.
In episode 2, Greg Thielen shared his thoughts on songwriting as a gift.
I have a duty to my songs, in a sense. I mean, they're a gift. For me, it's a real personal gift that I've been given to have these things come to me. They're all living in a different place, too. That's the cool thing about songwriting, too. I love going in the different genres because they get to have their own place in the stars.
And finally, in episode 1, Heather Carpenter talked about having such a strong relationship with music.
I can't imagine my life without music, without writing music. And that scares me a little bit. Only because, what if something happened where I couldn't write music and I'm so identified with it. I have such a relationship with music. And I would be so sad if we broke up.
I was thrilled after the event at the amount of positivity and inspiration bubbling in the room. I heard from multiple people expressing their feelings of being inspired and encouraged in their own writing and process, thanking me and the artists for sharing in this way. The live format is an experience that I'm excited to pursue and cultivate further, which brings me to looking ahead and sharing some exciting news for the podcast. So where will the project go from here? I'm not entirely sure, but it seems to be taking on a life of its own. Up until this point, All the artists featured have been local to my home turf of the southern Oregon coast. Now I am recording from Tasmania, where I am currently touring and working on other recording projects, but simultaneously conducting interviews with a diverse range of artists. I will be here until the middle of March, when I will spend some time traveling in California before heading back to Oregon and quickly taking the live podcasts on the road to Boise, Idaho, as an official part of Podfort at Treefort Music Festival 2025. We are scheduled for a live event on Friday, March 25th. More details will come soon. Outside the live event, I plan to schedule interviews with Treefort artists who represent indie artists from all over the states and beyond. I'm very excited and honored to participate in this event. The project is very much alive and unfolding as we go. It's been a deeply personal journey for me as a producer and as a listener. My role is to be the facilitator, not just an interviewer or commentator, but to create space for the artist's voice to be heard in the purest way possible. I'm thrilled to expand the scope of this project as I continue to record interviews while traveling, including even more diverse voices, styles, and backgrounds. Each new episode will bring new perspectives on creativity. Thank you for being a part of it. I appreciate the feedback and support I've received along the way. Please reach out if you would like to get involved or help bring an artist into the project. If you enjoy the podcast, keep tuning in and share it with others. Peace.